allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. At the time being 6 p.m., the meeting of the Water Board is called to order. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. Donna, roll call.
Scott Mankles.
Here.
Frank Massey.
Here.
Patrick Kennedy.
Here.
Tony Higginbotham.
Here.
Ryan Maddox.
Here. Mr. Massey, any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Nope, I move to accept the minutes as provided.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes will stand as presented. Darren, it's all yours.
First off, I'll hand out so you can follow along, like, take notes, critique my presentation, whatever you want to do.
Pat, I think we have to open the public meeting first.
We do, that's the first thing we have to do.
Public hearing.
We do public hearing first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just said motion, I take a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing for SRF preliminary engineering report.
So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, Darren.
Okay. Good evening. What we're here tonight is to have a public hearing for the City of Greensburg, the elevated tank and water mains PER. So I've got about 13 slides we'll walk through here and try to explain to you and kind of give a recap of the PER and why we're here and why we do a PER. Here's kind of agenda. We'll walk through some welcomes, introductions. That probably won't take too long because we pretty much know everybody here. We'll do an overview of what the PER report's all about. We'll talk about the projects that were part of the PER. That include talking about the needs, some of the alternatives that were evaluated, and as well as the proposed projects that we're recommending for the PER. We'll also look at environmental impacts, and we'll talk about schedules and estimated costs, and last but not least, some public participation. Quick introductions. Tonight we have the mayor, Rick's here, and Zach is here for the city. Myself, Darren's here, and we do have Scott Lord over there with the HNTB shirt. He's the one that makes me look really good all the time, so if there's a question I can't answer, he will be able to answer. We also had Ethan, one of our young assistant project engineers who also worked on the projects. And also Ready Group was part of the helping come up with some of the rates and that sort of thing. So, general overview, what is the PER? Well, it's one of the requirements when you pursue funding through the state revolving loan program. It is funded through EPA. They offer low interest loans. Typically they're 1 or 2% below what the open market is for municipal bonds. It does require you to, a PER is part of PER. I should go back and say that the PER stands for Preliminary Engineering Report. Again, us engineers, we like to use acronyms, so whenever you hear use an acronym you don't know what it is, please stop me. It looks at, the PER requires you to look at a 20-year planning period. Tonight we will we'll talk about 5 projects. The first being the elevated tank, which is the existing south tank just south of here in town. We'll look at 4 water main projects. They're broken down in Broadway and 10th Street, Main Street Railroad Crossing, which is West Main, Park Road, and then what we're calling the Loop, which connects to dead-end lines of West Main and Park Road, which runs along County Road 200 out there by the fairgrounds and the the park and ball diamonds generally. And we'll get in more details with each of these projects here in a minute. First off, the elevated tank, and we've talked about this for quite a while now. The need, it's an older tank, built in 1955. The last evaluation of the tank had it listed as fair to poor. There are a few code deficiencies. Those are more related to the age of the tank and some of the newer safety requirements that's come on board. So none of those are major deficiencies, they're minor deficiencies. So, and we've done an earlier study that a lot of that was incorporated into this PER that looked at, we looked at rehabilitating the existing tank, and we also looked at maybe constructing a new tank at 3 different locations throughout the city on the southwest side, those being, one being directly south of the existing tank, near where the new county jail is. The other being west along 46 west of town, across from basically where last, I think that's Delta, or across from Delta Faucet there. And the other one was kind of in between along the bypass between 46 and 421 along the railroad tracks. When you look at alternate sites, your costs increase because you also have to run mains to those sites as well. So what was we ended up selecting was for the PER is rehabilitating the existing tank. So that's the current recommendation for that. Any questions on that project? We've discussed that quite a bit. So next project, we'll call it water main project number 1. This is basically Broadway Street from 4th Street to Smith Road, and then also on 10th Street from Broadway over to Lincoln Street. The need, and probably in the last year and a half, I know there's been 3 major breaks along this route. So when you have that many breaks in that shorter period of time, it pretty much tells you that the infrastructure is nearing the end of its life, and so it needs to be replaced. The existing water lines in this section range in size from 6, 8, and 10. What we evaluated was either open cutting construction or trenchless installation. Right now, the preferred, the more cost-effective one, based upon our preliminary estimates, is trenchless installation. Now, once we get closer into design, we'll determine if that's still a viable option, because it is a pretty crowded corridor. There will be a section where we cross the State Road 3 bypass that will require trenchless installation, no matter which selection is chosen. So, and when you go with trenchless, you have to upsize. So instead of being a 12, it will be a 16-inch main, so that you have the same inside diameter of a 12. So, next project is water main project number 2. This is a small section on West Main Street that is basically the railroad crossing there near the COVID location. Kind of a little background. To the east of this is that the water lines being replaced as part of the roadway project that is being currently in design. I believe it's scheduled, and one of the mayors, Zach, can help me out, in 2026, 2027. So as part of the roadway, they are not doing anything with the railroad crossing. So, and for history, from the west of the railroad tracks toward West Main there, that water line was replaced in, I should know this, I did it myself, early 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, so basically this will be kind of a weak link if it doesn't get done here. So that's why this is included. So it is, it's a weak link, it's high risk, needs to be done. Like I said, it would be a connector type of thing. We did look at installing it just in the right of way or in easements. It's a little more length when you go in easements, but it will make the construction a lot simpler and can help with the maintenance of traffic there as well. So the selection is to install it in the easement to the north State Road 46 there. That is roughly, I believe that section's, I should tell you that Broadway is about 4,720 feet approximately. This project's about 300 feet. And again, it will be replaced with a 12-inch main. Project number 3. This is, again, kind of a connector main that will connect along Park Road from basically Rowell Drive Center to west to roughly the animal shelter location, crossing the creek there. I believe recently there's been a project at the county highway, part of the county highway project that replaced the water line basically from the west end of this project up toward County Road 200, and then it goes back toward the county highway garage. So again, this is kind of a weak link that we need to get done. It's also part of a roadway project that's currently being under design. So obviously you want to make sure you get your water lines replaced and upgraded before you put brand new pavement down, or you know what will happen, you'll tear the brand new pavement up pretty quickly. We did look at open cut installation and trenchless installation. The selected one was open cut. However, there will be a section that will be trenchless where we cross the creek down there to mitigate wetlands and flood areas, so floodplains. And the last project, project number 4, this is kind of a connector one right now. Currently, the water line is along West Main or 46 dead end, and also on Park Road dead end. So basically, this is to connect the 2 dead ends from Park Road to West Main. It would follow along 200 and then also West Main or 46. Approximate length is about 4,280 feet. This will doesn't have redundancy. This will help loop the system, will help provide that redundancy. Also, if you remember when we were evaluating the tank options, if you take out the south tank, having this connector line in place helps mitigate the loss of that tank when you have to take that offline or out of service for that rehabilitation. So, and sequence, and we'll talk a little bit more about the sequence in a few minutes, but this project we would recommend get done before the elevated tank is taken out of service to help boost the pressure in the southwest part of town. Again, we looked at installation in the right-of-way and easements that would be directly adjacent to the right-of-way, and the selected alternative was to actually stay within, or go within the easements. That's kind of a real quick, dirty description of the projects. If you have any questions, let me know. Or else I'll move on to the environmental impacts. As with any construction project, you will have short-term impacts associated with construction, that being noise, debris, dust. Mitigation measures will be in place to use during construction to help mitigate these short-term impacts. We do not anticipate any long-term impacts. Majority of the construction will be in previous disturbed area or existing right-of-way. The stream and wetland crossings will be done by trenchless installation, and I believe I forgot to mention there's one we associate with the Park Road project, or 3, and there's also a stream crossing with project 4. So those will definitely have that. We are not in any historic districts or sites will be impacted for this. So that's one of the requirements that SRF requires us to look into, if there's any historical impacts or districts that would be impacted by the projects. And here we're talking about some preliminary schedules. Again, first thing is we're having the public hearing tonight. We plan then, once we get all the documentations associated with the public hearing, we'll prepare actual PER to be submitted to SRF. We're anticipating that by the end of this month. The deadline is March 1st or March 31st? 31st. So we're giving us, we got a little leeway in there, but we're going to try to be ahead of that by a couple. SRF only takes applications once a year, and the deadline for submitting that is March 31st. So, from a design standpoint, projects will vary from project to project. Typically, most of the water main projects are going to range in about a 6 to 9 month period. Bidding typically takes 1 to 2 months, and construction again is somewhere in a 6 to 12 month period. So those are kind of ranges depending on when they get started. And we did kind of put together an order which we think is prioritizing that they need to be done. That being the Water Main Project 1, which is Broadway and 10th, and then Project 2 and 3 could be flipped either way. I know that Project 3's, the design has already been started on that, and I believe Project 2 is real close to, I know the design of the roadway has started, so I think those will probably go pretty much hand in hand. Project 4 is the one that can probably be pushed off until, there is no existing roadway project that's part of that, or there is no existing main there, so that one could be pushed off. The only thing being that needs to be done before the elevated tank project is done. Any questions on schedule? Moving on to the all-important cost and financing. The construction cost for these 5 projects is $5,333,000. That's the estimate. The non-construction costs, which include design, bidding, construction engineering, inspection, finance, and bond counsel, is $1,335,000. And if you do the math, that's 25% of the construction cost. So total project cost is $6,668,000 for these 4 or 5 projects. And now we're on the public participation. This was advertised as a public hearing. We will take comments up until February 10th. You can submit those comments to the City Hall here, or you can send them via email to Rick and Zach. Again, the comment period will be open until February 10th, and then we'll close that comment period. Any comments that we receive will be added to part of the SR or the PER and will be submitted. I covered a lot in a very quick period of time, and so I will open it up for questions or comments from the board or the audience.
What would your typical comments be, if any?
Usually it's when you're going to get started, how much it's going to cost, or how's it going to impact typically what we see. It's usually most of the time with any of these public projects, it's usually cost and schedule is the 2 driving things. And then once you get close to construction, then it's how it's going to impact them personally. So.
The scope of each one of the projects, what's the kind of timeline with each one? How long it's going to take to get accomplished?
I know that, I don't know, project number 3, which I think you signed a contract the other month for HWC. I don't know what their schedule looks like. It is going to be tied to the roadway project schedule a little bit, so it can't get too far ahead or lag too much. So I would say the roadway project on Park Road or project 3 will kind of dictate the schedule. The same is probably true for project 2 with the roadway project on State Road 46. However, I think they probably would like that to be done ahead of the actual roadway. And if I'm not mistaken right now, that Michael Baker is doing that as well. So that's being done, but they're doing the design to incorporate the cost of actually building it. Will not be part of that roadway. So the elevated tank, it's Scott, help me out, I can't remember that date schedule. That's,
As far as how long it will take once in construction.
construction's probably gonna be 9 months. And a lot of that's kind of, Frank can attest to this, it's about when you start and when your window to paint and recoat, so. But, you know, typically 9, if you have to start at odd time of year, it may push in the next construction season, which may go a little farther. But as far as the design side of things, probably less than 6 months. And project 1, which is Broadway, we'll talk a little bit more later on the meeting about that, but that's roughly design is roughly a 6-month project as well, with the construction probably running 6 to 12 months. They're very, actually, other than the railroad crossing, all the water main projects are very similar size. One's 4,700, one's 4,000, and the other's 4,200. So they're chunked out in very similar size projects. There's no other questions?
I'd say I would formally just state on the record, is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on any part of this public hearing? And then,
Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak?
ask for a motion to close the public hearing?
One last thing, I do have a sign-in sheet, so I'd like all you guys to sign in as well.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darren.
Move forward with your public meeting now.
So there's no old business, new business. Turn it over to Rick.
I think we need to amend the agenda for the Darren Burkhart engineering contract on North Broadway water line. And then I'll come back up when,
Which phone for Jack Oliver?
So,
Motion to amend the agenda.
motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
second.
Favor? Okay.
Burkhart?
Didn't give you much time to catch my breath.
Copies, I think I've enough for everybody. They come back. You see it?
Oh, yeah.
So this is what you emailed me earlier,
Yes,
correct?
that's what I emailed you earlier.
I need one to talk to them. What we just had that public hearing, we talked about the Broadway water line, and this is a contract amendment we're amending the PER to do the first phase of design of the Broadway. I could talk a little bit about the project. Again, it's roughly 4,700 feet. It'll be 12 and 16-inch water main along Broadway from Smith Road to 4th Street, and then along 10th to Broadway, and then along 10th Street from Broadway to Lincoln Street. The design services will include the survey to establish ground profile and topographic, as well as getting all the existing utilities from the utilities marked. We also have time and money in there for a couple soil borings. We'll prepare plans and specs to include bidding, general conditions, contract conditions, as well as technical specifications. will review the design documents with you guys on a 50% and 90%, so you'll have opportunity to review the plans as they're being designed. And then we'll also develop construction costs at the same submittal, at the same milestones being 50 and 90%. We have time in there to prepare applications for permits. We anticipate 2 permits, one with IDEM and the other with NDOT for the crossing of State Road 3, the bypass. We'll also prepare, because I think I said this earlier, construction cost estimates of 50 and 90, and then in the end we'll have sets of drawings that can be bid for construction. And then we've also got time in there, once you get approval, permits approved, we also have time in there for bidding assistance as well. A couple things too that will be following that will be construction, engineering, and inspection that are not included as part of this amendment. From a schedule standpoint, we anticipate completing this work within 6 months, and with the bidding occurring sometime after that, or hopefully before October of this year, 31st of this year. And the compensation for this is a lump sum of $182,000. So you combine that with the PER that was done earlier, the total is $246,000. Any questions?
I would say that Darren provided this to me earlier. I reviewed it and did not have any issues with the terminology or terms in the contract. Yeah, that's our motion to approve.
You'll make a motion to accept the amendment number 1 from HNTB.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stand.
Thank you. There's 2 signed, send me 2 copies. Donna gets one and I'll keep the other. So, thank you, and we'll get started getting survey done here, hopefully here in the next month or so. Hopefully we don't have a lot of snow in between. Can't survey too well, we get snow. But
Snow.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
Zach?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I am here tonight for the Main Street project with Michael Baker. They're the ones designing the roadway project for NDOT, and we are piggyback off them and using their design to do some improvements to the water and sewer also. This amendment you have in front of you is for a few different items. The water east replacement design updates are something that was pointed out by Chris Martin and Rick during our review meeting Michael Baker had it designed to where they were just lowering the water main on the east side around what needed to be lowered. They pointed out by the time you put all those fittings and changes in there, it might be more beneficial just to put a whole new water line in. So that is what this design cost is for. My anticipation is that this will get covered by NDOT under reimbursement. So just making that note there for your reference. The next part is the West Main updates and the railroad casing, which would be to design that water main under the railroad tracks that Darren had mentioned previously as water main project number 2. So that is that, get that design done and included. And then the railroad coordination and documentation is Michael Baker's coordination with the railroad company to get the plans accepted by the railroad for the boring under their property, which sometimes can be a daunting task with the railroad as far as going back and forth on design review and acceptance and making sure they're following all their specific rules and all that stuff. So it could turn into a multiple iteration of redesign and design, so that is why that expense is in there. And then the bottom line is for subsurface utility investigation on the whole project. It's noted in there that split that cost with the sewer department as it includes both water line and sewer line. This did go to the Board of Works last month to accept their portions of the contract changes. So tonight would be looking for approval for the mayor to sign the actual agreement from Michael Baker.
So you're good. You see a motion to approve the contract?
Was that,
We get a motion to approve?
yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the Michael Baker
Second.
amendment.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Stan?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach.
It's my turn.
It's not gonna be 6 minutes tonight.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
So all I have today is our HACH service agreement. This is our agreement with HACH that comes in quarterly to calibrate, maintain our inline water monitoring equipment as well as our tabletop equipment. The annual contract is this year is $33,559, and I would like to point out that last year was $33,747. So unlike these two, I'm saving a couple $100.
Good job.
Just need a motion to accept that.
I'll make a motion to accept the contract.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion stands presented.
Thank you. You do have January's MRO in your packet. If you have any questions on it, nothing's changed.
Rick, I seen you brought a member or a guest with you tonight.
I did. Told you I found him walking down the road. He looked a little chilly, so I picked him up.
A lot of breaks this month with the cold weather.
Quite a few. We had one major on Ireland and Main Street a couple week ago, whatever it was.
Last Monday.
Was it last?
don't forget.
Yeah. Wasn't even a week ago, yeah. A little over a week ago. How many hours did you have last week, Aaron?
78.
It's been nonstop, so, but the crew's doing an awesome job. You see them out there. Everybody has water in the mornings when they get up, so I think they ended up working like 30 hours or something straight. I don't know, it was crazy, so they're doing an awesome job. They always have. Well-deserved thank you.
Yes.
To
Darren,
them.
please go back and see the team, Rick, to
Yep.
let them know that we truly appreciate what they do for the community.
I tell them all the time, Pat.
What was Ireland and Maine, just old and,
That was actually the main feed line to the south tower.
is that what it was?
So what made it so bad was that where it had cracked and broke was right at the flange of a valve. So we had no way to isolate that section. So by the time we got O'Mara's in there, whatever time they showed up, and then they set one of the inserter valves up, which would have killed the water. Well, when they put the inserter valve in and cut the coupon, it split that section of pipe. So then they had to back up on further towards Washington Street, start the whole process all over again, and now they had two sections of the main to cut out. But they got it done, and everybody had water the next morning. And
Yeah.
a lot of people probably didn't even know they were out there all night.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
There's a lot of equipment and a lot going on in that corner, that's for
Yep.
sure.
it's been a rough couple of years, but we're working on that.
Yeah, yeah, we all
Yes, we
know.
are. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
I was going to express the same gratitude and thanks to the team for the overnight work, and thank you to this board and to our city council for continuing to support the improvements to the infrastructure plan. Those were all identified in our capital plan. We're going to work on the SRF funding. That is historically for the last couple of years been significantly over-programmed, so I appreciate the council commitment to helping see some of these projects through. Even if that's not available, we're going to look at that first. And thanks to the board for continuing to support the PER work and move these projects along so that we can create some efficiencies with our other road projects. So, big night, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Board, anything else coming in front of the board tonight? No? Motion closed?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Second? Second.
All in favor, say aye. Close the meeting.